Hi guys, you're going to have to bear with me today because I have been suffering with a really bad cold, well, mostly a cough, and I keep having these like horrible revolting spasms of coughing. So if this video is like really overly choppy this time round, that's going to be the reason why. So I'm like editing out all the horrible coughs. So yeah, today's going to be a kind of different take on my book wrap up. It's kind of mixed with another video, so it's like two videos in one pretty much. The second half I will explain when I get to it, but for now here is my book wrap up for the month of July. So this month I managed to finish 5 books, which I'm pleased with because this year it kind of started out really well, and then near probably around March or so it kind of disintegrated to like 2 or 3 books, and now I'm back up to 5, so hopefully I can keep this pace going again. I haven't got like a reading challenge at the moment, as in like Goodreads or something like that, so this is kind of just me pacing myself and reading what I want to read until like a next birthday where I get a whole haul of books. So the first book I managed to finish was The Priestess of the White by Trudy Canavan. So this book is basically about a woman from like a little town, and she kind of has an interest in these kind of people called dream weavers, and they don't believe in the gods. They kind of get shunned for that, so they're kind of not talked about or talked to. It's kind of like against the law if you become a priestess or anything in the circle to talk to them or anything. Anyway, this priestess, she becomes a priestess. I'm not really explaining this very well, and she still has that friendship with the Dreamweaver, but she thinks obviously the gods must allow that, and they want some sort of bridge to be built if they chose her, knowing that she has a friendship with a Dreamweaver. Anyway, it's really cool. There's a war going on. They have to recruit different people, like the Sai, which are like, they're kind of angels aspect, but they're not what you'd expect. They're not full wings and beautiful people. They're like really small and have kind of like bat-like almost wings, like they look like skin. And then there's the Eli, I think they're called, and they're like the sea people, but they're not mermaids as you would think. It's really cool because it has a different aspect of things you would imagine them to be. So the mermaids aren't really like mermaids and that sort of thing. I'm not really explaining this very well. I went into this book not really expecting what it was about, like I seem to be with all my books nowadays. I was really pleasantly surprised. I did at times find myself flicking back to the front where the map was, so I can kind of get a better adjustment as to where the protagonist was in her journeys. And although I loved it, I was a bit shocked at the sexual content that was in there. It's not overly explicit or anything like that. I was just shocked because it's probably because my brother gave this book to me and I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, it was actually a pretty good book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The next book I read was Half Bad by Sally Green. Yeah, and this one, it doesn't have a synopsis anywhere, so you kind of have to go on to Goodreads and like look, but on coming to the end of the book it sort of has a little bit about the book, but no, it's not a full-blown synopsis. So if you do want to know in great detail what it's about, then go to Goodreads and check out that page. But yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and basically, because I don't want to spoil what it's about, I'll just tell you the main gist. It's basically, Half Bad is about a boy called, I think he's Nathan. I don't know if that is from another book or not. His name may or may not be Nathan, okay? Sorry about that. And he is a half good witch and half a bad witch. His father, who he doesn't know, is the most notorious bad witch out there. So he's got to keep going to these, like, checks every birthday, I think, to see if he is going to become a bad witch or if he's going to become a good witch. And he's kind of treated really badly when he goes to school and stuff like that, because he's the only half bad, half good witch there around. So it's really cool. He's trying to like sort of find himself and make sure that he gets his 3 gifts, which every witch needs. If a good witch doesn't get the 3 gifts, their magic's just gone and they become like a human. And if a bad witch doesn't get their 3 gifts, apparently they die. So he's trying to find someone to give that to him. Yep, 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book, and I think it's an up-and-coming trilogy, so I'm excited when the second book comes out in, I think, August, either this year or next year. I'm not too sure. The third book I read was Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars again because it was a really beautiful story. It was just so like simple, but it was very realistic in the way that nothing magical's happened. It's a bit out of my comfort zone. Nothing magical's happening. It's just about a girl who's, through circumstances that are not her fault at all, ends up with a really crap home life, you know, and she pretty much falls in love with a boy who has a complete opposite lifestyle to her. He's not super rich or anything, but he's in a better, more stable home. And it's just how she's trying to get out of the crap that she's found herself in, how she wants to find love but she doesn't want to be let down because she's been let down all her life pretty much. In saying that I loved it, I was really a bit peeved with Eleanor because sometimes I felt like she wasn't giving Park as much appreciation as I feel she should have given. At first I can understand, yeah, sure, be closed, guard your heart because you've been brought up in a place that's kind of rough, you know, you've got not so nice people in your family. Without a doubt, guard your heart. But when you know that he's legit and he loves you, open up a bit more, appreciate him, you know. She did in the end, but I still felt like she was a bit whingy about the whole thing, and yeah, she bugged me a bit, but I still liked her a lot. And I liked the dual narration coming from both perspectives, both Eleanor and Park's perspectives. That made me feel like I understood both of them better. So yeah, good book. The 4th book I read is Waterfire Saga, Book 1, and it's The Deep Blue by Jennifer Donnelly. Now, this isn't an excellent book, but that's not to say by any means that it wasn't enjoyable. It was just... okay, the story is really good. It's about a mermaid, and she has to fulfill this prophecy and group with 5 other mermaids, I think it is, to stop all the disturbances that are going in the sea, like all these horrible things that were happening. But it's the fact that I can definitely tell this is a Disney publication book because they don't swear at all. Like arses is rasses or rasses or whatever. Girls is merls, so like a merl friend. It's just really, at first it's kind of funny, but the puns get too much and it's a bit unbearable. Like it's so cheesy to read. But I think I will carry on with the series. I think the next one's called Red something Rogue or something like that, but just so you know, it's very child friendly. And the last book I read was by Glenn Duncan and it's called The Last Werewolf. Sadly I don't have this to hand because it was a library book, and as soon as I read it I pretty much the next day took it back and got the 2nd and 3rd from the trilogy. But that doesn't mean it was a great book, and I'll explain why. I need the completion of reading the whole series. I'm always like that. The last few chapters were pretty decent. I think it might be because it had a different narrator, and also she was a female, so it was kind of different style of writing entirely almost, and I think I much preferred that than the main protagonist, which is Jacob. I had to think about that. I've got a more detailed review, as of with most of these books, on my Goodreads. Leave it down below. The main reason I didn't really enjoy this book was because, and it's not, I'm no prude at all, sex, okay, and it's not that sex was mentioned a lot, that didn't make any sense, but it's the way that things were described. Like there's overuse of the C word, which is the one word I most hate, that and the N word. Anyway, that's not what it's about. But yeah, the use of that was just disgusting. The way things were worded it was just too explicit, and it made me feel really uncomfortable to read. Also, the sentences were like really abnormally long, and I mean, I've read Tolkien and his sentences can be quite bulky, but they make sense. This one was like the author Glenn Duncan used so many big words in one sentence, and it just didn't flow, and there were so many brackets in a sentence, so many commas. I was just like, wait, what am I talking about again? So I had to go back to the beginning of the sentence and read, and sometimes I'd have to go back a page as well, and I'm just not committed to do that to a book that I'm already not enjoying. But I felt like I had to have a greater understanding and to bring to you a better review. Yeah, I really didn't like this book. I actually gave it 1 out of 5 stars, and I think that's the first time I've actually done this before. But yeah, I did not like that book whatsoever. Okay, so that's it for the wrap up of this video. The next one is a challenge that I had planned to undertake, but I thought I would do a separate video, but then I thought, no, I've done it wrong completely anyway, I might as well just add it onto this video. And it's Ariel Bassett's Region Challenge. I didn't actually know that this is pretty much the BookTubeathon. I completely messed up. I think I got overly excited when I watched the very first video when she mentioned this challenge that I didn't actually listen to what you're supposed to do properly, so I completely got muddled and everything. So I didn't realise it was for a specific week, like I guess in the summer holidays, so I've missed out on it. And in general, I just didn't realise there was so much to it, like for example, page counting on specific days and stuff like that. So from what I did understand, here is my, I guess, BookTubeathon wrap up in a way. And I will say, even if I did understand what it was, I still would have in a way cheated, because a lot of these books I read prior to taking up this challenge, but I mean it's all been in this year, so they kind of all merged together. But yeah, I completely failed at this challenge. Anyway, the first challenge was to read a book with pictures, and that book would have been Dull Bones by I can't remember, but Dull Bones nevertheless. The start and finish of a series. The starting of a series would have been Half Bad, that I just showed. I might as well just show you the books I actually have to hand right now, because a lot of the books that I read last month for were actually for this challenge in a way. Anyway, yeah, so the start of a series would have been Half Bad by Sally Green, and the finish of the series, it was going to be The Last Vampire, and that's why I went to the library and got the last two books, which is Tallulah's Rising and By Blood We Live. So I kind of just wanted to finish it just to kind of have another thing down on this challenge that I messed up anyway. Book with red on the cover would also be Half Bad by Sally Green. A book someone else has chosen for me. I got Joe to choose a book out of 7 books I had, and he chose number 5, and that turned out to be Waterfire Saga, Deep Blue by Jennifer Donnelly. A book from a genre I've read the least of this year, and that would have been Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, which I don't know what kind of genre it comes under. I've got it down here as it's sort of a young adult literature, so like a young contemporary adult literature, so no magic whatsoever, just realistic up straight life book. A book to movie adaptation would have been The Fault in Our Stars. About maybe last week or the week before I went to see the movie, and I read the book a couple of months ago, so see how that ties in. And the last one, to read 7 books, the 7th book would have been, I don't even know if I've done my math correctly here as well, but that probably would have been the Last Werewolf, but in a way it probably wouldn't have been, because I don't think that adds up. So yeah, as you can see, the video all on its own would have been completely messed up, so I thought I'd add a messed up part to the end of this video, just to show my confusion and why I don't understand what people say very easily. So yeah, I know when if I decide to actually redo this challenge, like next summer, I think it's once every summer, I'm not too sure, I'll make sure to listen to the rules and understand it better, and I'll probably choose more books, because it's not as fun having one book for loads of the different challenges. So yeah, that's it for this video. Really rambly and really pointless, but I shall speak to you in the next one, so see you later.